So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome and welcome back here about BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, June 23rd. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Wednesday, June 23rd here today, coming off of another big night in New York sports and around the sports world. Another big night. Obviously, Suns take Game 2 of their series against the Clippers, so they are up 2-0 in the series. The Canadians beat the Vegas Golden Knights, so they're up 3-2 in that series. The New York Mets have a tough night, and the Yankees also blow a lead late in that game. Last night, they blew the lead, and they fall 6-5 in the first game of the three-game set to the Kansas City Royals, and obviously it's a frustrating way to lose, especially with the way the Yankees have been playing recently. You know, we've won 5 of our last 6. We've looked pretty good. We played well, and we've been doing our jobs. And, you know, the Yankees as a team have been hitting better recently. We've been doing, much better. And, as the hitting picks up, now the bullpen starts to fail. And that's obviously very frustrating as a fan. And obviously that's something that's tough to watch. And Loizaga, who's been good this entire season, obviously blew the game last night. So, it's tough, to lose a game like that, especially when Cole gives you 7 innings of 2-run ball and 6 strikeouts. And, when he pitches that good and he looks that good, it's frustrating to waste a start like that. But at the end of the day, it was on Loizaga. He needed to get the job done. He didn't get it done, and the Yankees take a tough loss game 1. So we got to bounce back today, and that makes today's game a must-win because you don't want to lose today. You don't want to lose the series here, then have to salvage the third game of the series, and then head to Boston on a little bit of a losing note. I would much rather win today, win tomorrow, head to Boston on a winning note. And then, we got a lot of big games coming up. So, tough loss for the Yankees last night, definitely. But they'll try to bounce back today. Mets as well. Marcus Stroman got injured. So, that is definitely negative news coming out of there for the Mets. It seems like the injuries for them just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And obviously, with Jacob deGrom, he's been injured a couple times. It hasn't been a big injury that has sidelined him for a very long period of time. But you look at the other injuries on the team. Conforto's just coming back. Alonso came back a couple weeks ago, McNeil, and now these guys are slowly starting to trickle in, but now Marcus Stroman goes down, and we obviously don't know this exact severity of that injury, but still, it's an injury, it's a scare, it's something that the Mets got another injury the Mets got to worry and focus on now in the season, and I'll tell you what, it's been a true grind for the Mets this season. It has been a true grind for the Mets, and that's something that's, and there's no other way of saying that. It's been a grind for the Mets this season. The way they started the season, to all the injuries, to, the setbacks, to, Lindor struggling, it has been a grind for the New York Mets. And the fact that they are still first place in their division is still solid. Even though they're in the weakest division in baseball, it is still solid. So, the Mets with another injury there. As for tonight, we got the Islanders on. Yankees and Mets are both on, so Islanders must win tonight. If the Islanders lose tonight, their season is over. So a must win tonight for the Islanders. Game 6 at home. I don't think there's much better way you would want it if you're an Islander fan, because you're at home. It's Game 6. You get a golden opportunity, push it to Game 7 and go back to Tampa where you've already got a game there. So a must win tonight for the Islanders. It's a win or go home. Simple as that. They win, they go to Game 7, they lose, their season's over, Lightning move to the Stanley Cup, and they'll play the winner of Montreal and Las Vegas. So that's a big game tonight. Yankees will try to take Game 2 of the series against the Royals, and the Mets as well will try to get back onto the winning track. And, you just got to hope, if you're a Mets fan, that injury is nothing severe. That's what you got to hope. You just got to hope that injury is not severe, that the injury is something minor, that Stroman will be back soon. At worst case, an IL stint, nothing where he's going to be out an extended period of time, like a month or 2 months. Worst case scenario, it's an IL stint. That's what you got to hope if you're the New York Mets, because Stroman's been very good this season. He's been very good. And, I wanted the Yankees to get Stroman. They didn't, and Stroman's showing, he's playing his best season of baseball right now. So, definitely tough to if you're a Met fan out there, to see that happen. So anyway, let's get into the topics for today's podcast. Very big podcast on store. A lot of sports news recently. A lot of news around sports, especially in the NFL. We got some NBA news yesterday. Not so much like news, a lot of off-the-field news. There's a couple guys that got arrested last night. Alex Caruso got arrested. So there's been a lot of news around the league, but some more news obviously involving football and basketball here. Not off-the-field stuff, but this is the topics for today. Lamar Jackson contract. Lamar Jackson has begun to negotiate a massive contract. They're not saying the exact numbers yet. Lamar Jackson, they're not saying, exactly what he wants, the amount of money exactly. But we do know that he is currently negotiating a monster contract. And he's negotiating a monster contract, doing it without an agent, which is pretty crazy. We don't see that very often. Usually every player has an agent. Usually every player has a guy representing them. He's doing it without an agent. He's actually using his mom as his agent. So it's very interesting. It's something we don't see often. I'll get into it. I'll also get into, what I think the Ravens should give him, because I think Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. I don't think he's what a lot of people think he is, but I'll get into it. I'll talk about it. That'll be first up for the topics today. Then I wanted to get into the Pistons win the draft lottery. I always talk about it. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, the Sabres won the NHL draft lottery. I talked about that today. Last night, actually, the Detroit Pistons won the NBA draft lottery, so they will get the first overall pick. I will also read through, the rest of the picks where the Knicks pick. The Knicks have actually a really good selection. They have 19th pick, and I believe they have the 21st pick. So they have a pick, then another team picks, then they have another pick. So the Knicks the Knicks still got some more draft capital to build around. Nets have the 27th overall pick. Obviously, the Nets right now a team who does not need much draft capital. They are a team who currently has the big three and currently is not a team in the rebuilding phase or a team that's trying to get young talent. They already have a lot of talent, so they get the 27th overall pick. Nothing special there. But with the Knicks getting their picks there, with their officially getting their placement, and now the Pistons winning the draft lottery, it definitely creates now where we all get to see, what the teams decide to do here with their respective picks. So we'll get into that. Then we'll get into the New York Sports Update, finish off the podcast with the New York Sports Update. Like I mentioned, Yankees, Mets both on today. Obviously, Mets, after losing last night, they dropped the second straight game. Obviously, dropped the second game of the doubleheader on Monday. Lost last night, so they were 37-29. They're now 37-31. So a little two-game skid for the Mets. We'll see if they can get back on track as they play Game 4 of the series against the Braves. Obviously, it was a doubleheader on Monday, game yesterday, game today. So 4 games in 3 days. And obviously, the Yankees will play the second game of their 3-game set against the Royals, trying to even up the series at 1, and then tomorrow go for the series win. That's obviously the goal. That's the hope. And obviously the Islanders as well play tonight, and that's it. Obviously both basketball teams are done. Football's not in session, so that's what we got for New York sports tonight. But with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So Lamar Jackson negotiating Ravens contract with mother acting as agent. So this is a very interesting development for the entire NFL. And this might actually be kind of a thing that we see to come more often now that Lamar Jackson has officially decided to do it. So Lamar Jackson, obviously every player usually gets an agent. And that's always what we're always hearing. It's like if you declare for the draft and you sign with an agent, you're not allowed to go back to college. So I believe that's the case. If you sign with an agent, you have to go to the draft. There's some players that won't sign with an agent yet. They'll keep their college ability, and then they'll go to whatever draft. That's with that case. Now, in the NFL, obviously, NBA, MLB, NHL, they all have agents. Usually that's, an agent's the guy that, helps them find the contract. If they're in free agency, he's kind of the guy. The agent is usually the person that obviously helps them with the contract. He's the guy that negotiates a lot. Obviously, the player's involved a little bit, but it's mainly the agent. And when you hear that they're having talks with the players, it's mainly they're having talks with the player's agent. So it's definitely an interesting development to hear that Lamar Jackson is negotiating a contract without an agent, and his mom, who is actually acting as his agent. Now, it is something that we do not see often. It is very rare to see a player without an agent go for a monster deal. Usually, a guy, maybe if you don't have an agent, usually they'll hire an agent before they go for a monster deal, because your agent's kind of your salesman in a way. He's the guy that, tells all the good things about you, tells you why you should play this guy, all that stuff, and then negotiates the contract, and obviously tries to get the best deal, not only for you, but for both sides. But obviously, definitely leads a little your way, which is why I think it would be interesting to see how the Ravens approach this and how Lamar Jackson approaches this. He's obviously got to have some knowledge in the field of money and in the field of contracts and in the field of, knowing, the guaranteed and all that. He's got to have some knowledge in that. But it's definitely interesting because it's not like that's his job for a living, is to break down contracts, break down all the guaranteed money, break down the incentives, break down the bonuses, right? That's why I think it would be interesting to see how this contract comes out. They said they're working on a monster contract, a massive contract, which is interesting because I wonder, with Lamar Jackson kind of being his agent, obviously his mom is helping him, but mainly it's him, kind of working as his own agent. It would be interesting to see if he goes out and kind of gets a lot of money, or if he goes out and maybe only gets a little bit of money. It'd be interesting to see how he approaches this. He might be taking the approach, I'm going all in, I want all the money, or he might be taking the approach of, what? Let's see, what they're willing to give me and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Lamar Jackson does it. And this is definitely something that's going to have to get done before the season, because that is the last thing you want, is your franchise quarterback in the middle of a contract negotiation in the middle of the season. So if this contract is going to get done, it will probably get done soon. And it's been talked about for a really long time, is Lamar Jackson getting a big contract, but he hasn't had an agent. That's the one thing, is everyone saying, oh, will he get an agent? Is he going to get an agent? He hasn't got an agent. So that's kind of what's been holding back the whole, Lamar Jackson's going to sign a massive deal type thing, is he hasn't had an agent. Now let's get to the actual Lamar Jackson, his skill level and his play. All right, I've said this so many times. I think Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback. I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's someone that's got a bright future ahead of him. And I do truly believe he's someone that can become one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Now, do I think he's the best quarterback in the league? Do I think he's the top 5 quarterback in the league? I think that might be pushing it a little bit, especially when you see some of these other quarterbacks like Josh Allen now come around, Kyler Murray come around. You see guys like Russell Wilson still play well. You obviously got Patrick Mahomes, who's still the best. As much as I don't like him, Baker Mayfield had a very good season last season. You're starting to see him come around. We'll see how this rookie draft class goes this year with Trevor Lawrence, Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. Obviously, we'll see how they all play out. But in terms of Lamar Jackson, do I think he is the best quarterback in the league? No. Do I think he's the top 5 quarterback in the league? I think that might be pushing a little bit. Now, I do tend to agree that he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. Now, like I said, I think Lamar Jackson is a very good quarterback. Do I think he deserves a very big deal? Here's the one issue I have with Lamar Jackson is his whole running thing. Quarterbacks we see where they're big throwers. Quarterbacks now, and we actually see this league, the NFL right now, it's turning into a more mobile quarterback league. And that's why you see a lot more quarterbacks adapting to being mobile, right? Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, guys like that, they're all being mobile. You see some of the older quarterbacks in the NFL, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're not as mobile. Now, Aaron Rodgers is decently mobile, but nothing like Allen or Lamar Jackson or Mayfield can run. Really, you can name almost any quarterback out there. Matt Ryan's not mobile, right? Some of the veterans, they're not mobile. It's turning into a mobile quarterback league. So to have a mobile quarterback is very good. The one thing that concerns me with Lamar Jackson is his running. And the one issue I say this is because he's taken a whole lot of hits. He's taken some really big hits from really big linemen, really big contact as a quarterback. And if you're the Ravens, that's got to be my one issue with Jackson. I don't question his arm talent. I think Jackson has actually gotten a little bit in a way. I don't think he's got the strongest receivers around him, which is why I think the addition of Rashad Bateman in the draft was very good by the Baltimore Ravens. Because I don't think outside of Mark Andrews, Marquise Hollywood-Brown, he's He's nothing special. I've noticed with him it's a lot of flashes plays. He has a couple really nice plays, and then there's other times where it seems like he's not even out on the field, like he's not even getting targeted. Lamar Jackson, I feel like, has not had a real consistent receiver. He has not had a true number one. He's had a very good tight end. He's got one of the better tight ends in the NFL in Mark Andrews. But in terms of receivers, in terms of deep ball threat, he doesn't really have one of those guys. Now, one thing that does concern me a lot about Lamar Jackson is a little bit of his deep ball passing ability, because he does not throw the ball deep much. The Ravens are a very old school style football team. They run a lot. They run some more. They run a little bit more, and they run a lot of short passes. The Ravens are a very old school style football team, right? Back then in football, there wasn't, quarterbacks weren't throwing 40 to 45, 50 times a game. They were throwing maybe 15 to 20 and running about 30 to 35 times. Right back then, that's what happened. They ran the ball a ton. They kept running. That's why you see a lot of the all-time great running backs were back in the day, because they got so many carries. Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, guys like that. The Ravens run a very old-school style offense. They run a lot. They run with Dobbins. They'll use their fullback. They'll run with Jackson. And then they'll run these little mesh plays across the middle, where you got Marquise Hollywood-Brown running like a slant 5 yards, and you got Mark Andrews running about a slant 5 yards. Right? So that's how it is. It's a very old school style offense, which Lamar Jackson has succeeded in. He won the MVP. He has succeeded in the old school style offense. But the one issue is with him is the arm strength. And I know it's there, but is it consistently there? I know he can throw the ball deep. We've seen it in Louisville. We've seen it in the NFL at times. But is it going to be consistently there throughout his career? And is it going to be consistent enough to live up of a contract that he might want? Is his arm strength. Like I said, these are abilities that I don't question. I don't question his running ability. He's the best running quarterback in the NFL. There's no real argument. He's the best running quarterback we might have ever seen in NFL history. He's broken Vic's record, who we all thought was. I think he might go down as the best mobile quarterback in NFL history. And I mean that by using his legs. I don't mean that as his overall ability to play, because there's different sections, arm, all that. But I think he might go down as one of the best running quarterbacks in NFL history, because he's already broken records at the running ability, with the mobile ability. He's almost like another running back out there, and he can also throw. In a way, it's like a wildcat formation is what they're running all the time. I do question his arm strength a little bit, because he doesn't throw the ball deep much. He has, and he's connected, but can he do it over a consistent time? And can he do it if defenses start to pick up on their kind of short, small ball type offense? Can he consistently throw down the field deep and consistently connect? We'll see. The things I don't really question, obviously, is his legs, his accuracy. It's been good, getting on short routes. They've been fine. His accuracy, obviously, his knowledge for the game is very good, especially for a guy that came out of college so young. For a guy that still is young, his knowledge for the game, the way he's learned the playbook is very good. He's connected on what they needed him to do. And that's another thing with Lamar Jackson, is he's connected on what they've needed him to do. And I mean that by they run a short offense. They run a very old school type offense. They run pistol formations. They run a lot of little 4 or 5 yard slants across the middle. He's been able to connect on those. There's not many mistakes that happen on those plays. They've been able to execute those plays. They've been able to connect in on those. So that's something simple as well. It's another simple thing. Is what they needed him to do, he comes through and does it. So I definitely think Lamar Jackson does deserve a contract extension. Now, is it going to be up to Mahomes level? I don't think he'll deserve all that money, just because, right? He has not had the playoff success yet. That has been another thing with him. I think that's one of the things here with the Ravens. You got to be patient with this. But now this year, you got Rashad Bateman, Dobbins. This is his second year. J.K. Dobbins, who had a very good year last year. This is his second season, so you got to grow there with him. Then you get Rashad Bateman. Obviously, Mark Andrews and Marquise Hollywood-Brown both back. Your offensive line is pretty solid. You added Alejandro Villanueva, who is another solid offensive lineman who was in the division with the Steelers. He obviously moved to Baltimore there, and now is with the Ravens. So in terms of adding on the offense, I definitely think they did a good job of that. And I think this is a big year this year. Because you got to look at this. If you look at the division right now, in the AFC, right, with the Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. Steelers, Bengals, I don't think they have any shot at winning the division. Nothing against the Bengals. They're a young team. They're going to develop. They'll be good in a couple years. Believe me. I do believe that Joe Burrow is going to be special. The Steelers, I think, are going to have a terrible year this year. Browns and Ravens are going to be battling for the division. So this is a big year for Jackson. And this is where, if you're the Ravens, you might want to be patient and say, let's see how this year plays out. And if we win a division and we win, obviously, if you don't win the Super Bowl, if you get to the AFC Championship game, you're talking about, very solid. Because once again, they obviously lost 2 years ago when they were the best team in the NFL coming out of the regular season. They lost to the Titans in a division round. Then last year they lost to the Bills in the divisional round. So, you look at it and they've just not been able to get past. They've not been able to get to that next level. And that's been one of the issues. They've not been able to get to that next level. Lamar Jackson has not been able to get to that next level. But I do still believe Lamar Jackson can be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and he still is considered that. One of the top quarterbacks in the league. I believe top 10 quarterback. Top 5 might be pushing a little bit. You can make the argument, but top 10, definitely. So you're going to be paying a top 10 quarterback, which there's no issue there. But if you really zone out and you look at some of this, you look at his success, he's been good in so many categories. He's had more positives than negative. The one big negative with him, I think, is the playoff success hasn't been there, and but as a team, the playoff success hasn't been there. Let's be honest, the defense as well has not been good in the playoffs. As a team, it's not been good. Not just Jackson. As a team, it's not been good. Playoff success hasn't been there, and one of the things is his throwing ability. Can he really throw deep, and can he throw deep consistently? Right? That's one of the big questions. Nobody's questioning his mobility. No one's questioning his execution of plays. He can do it. He can make something out of nothing. We've seen that so many times. We saw it last year. I don't know exactly what game it was, but I remember he was pressured, and he was able to escape the pressure, and he was able to still get 5-6 yards out of the play. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league at making something out of nothing. Where that I would definitely say he's top 5 in terms of plays that have completely been broken down, and he does something in it, whether that's a little short pass, whether that's running for 3-4 yards instead of losing 6, right? That's also part of the reason by his mobility. Patrick Mahomes is also very good at making something out of nothing type plays where everything that happened on the play got blown up, and he's able to still get yards. He's still able to execute. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, I think, might be at the top of the league in making plays where everything got destroyed, and then, they still got something out of it. So, and like I said, I don't think the Ravens have done an incredibly good job of building around Lamar. They have not got him a true number 1 receiver. They haven't. So, you got to look at both sides of it. I don't think they've done a great job of it. They did get Rashad Bateman. They got a young core. We'll see how it plays out. But if you pay him and you give him a big deal, he's deserving. I mean, he's had a very good... His, 3 years in the league have been very good. He's lived up to expectations. He's actually exceeded expectations for being the 32nd overall pick in the draft. Last pick in the first round. Report Lamar Jackson negotiating Ravens contract with mom acting as agent. And his mom obviously got to have some knowledge, but it's definitely an interesting development that, he's negotiating a contract without an agent. His mom's acting as an agent, but without a true agent. Lamar Jackson is working on an extension with the Baltimore Ravens without the help of an agent, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. Speaking to the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, Rappaport explained the franchise quarterback is negotiating his next deal with his mother. This is what Rappaport said on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. It is a lot of pressure, unbelievably difficult. The stakes are incredibly high because if you lock yourself into a bad deal, you could cost yourself tens of millions of dollars. Rap sheet on Lamar Jackson negotiating contract without an agent. Agents, a lot of times, sort of act as the buffer for teams to players. Rappaport said. So if you're really mad about something, some counteroffer, you scream at the agent and talk about why you're going to put him out of business, or whatever you want to say, and the player generally has no idea, and the relationship is good. It's a little different with Lamar Jackson because it's his mom acting as his business partner. Spot Track projects Jackson's value at $42.7 million per year, which could make him the second highest paid quarterback behind Kansas City Chiefs star Patrick Mahomes, which, like I said, I have no issue with that. And Spot Track's very trustable. I look at there all the times for contracts and logistics and salary cap space. They take all different stats, calculate them, and they'll figure out really how much this guy's worth. So it's about $42.7 million per year is what he'll be aiming at. Now, like I said, with his agent, I said this early on in the podcast. Without an agent, does he go for something that's crazy wild number of money, or does he go for something that, isn't as much money as he could get and cost him so much, and he could be getting so much more money, right? And like I said, with Mahomes, if he's the second highest paid quarterback in the league, I don't have any issue with that. But the one issue I would have if he gets up into Mahomes territory, like slightly short of Mahomes. We'll see how it plays out. But he's been good. He's been very good for the team. The 24-year-old is wrapping up a rookie contract that paid him $9.5 million over 4 years. A fifth-year option already exercised by the Ravens will pay him $23 million in 2022, with the Louisville product slated to hit free agency the following season. Jackson's mother, Felicia Jones, has served as her son's business manager since announcing he would turn pro at the end of the 2017 season with the Cardinals. Cardinals being Louisville, not Arizona. While some teams initially balked at the notion of Jackson relying on his mother rather than an established representation service, it hasn't stopped the Ravens star from becoming one of the most coveted quarterbacks in the NFL. Now she'll help him negotiate his next contract, and the stakes going to be higher for either side as the Baltimore's championship window reaches its apex. It's the truth, and I said this earlier. Once again, Baltimore right now has a championship-type roster. You've got to get there. If not this year, next year it's got to be a mandate. Because you're going to go into Jackson's, this will be his fourth year, right, or third year. Right, he was picked, this would be his fourth, right, because wasn't he picked the year Darnold, Allen, Mayfield were all picked? Wrapping up a rookie contract, 4 years. So he's been 4 years. This is his fourth year, I believe, right? This has got to be his fourth year. Yeah, because the year before that, yeah. So that's interesting, because it's been 4 years. This upcoming season's been 4 years. This team's made the playoffs. They've not had success. And if this is so true, though, the stakes couldn't be higher for either side as Baltimore's championship window reaches its apex. It's the truth. This Baltimore Ravens team, not this year, definitely next year, they've got to either get to the championship, or they got to get to the Super Bowl, or they got to win the Super Bowl. If they continue to fail in the playoffs over the next 2 seasons, it ain't going to be good there in Baltimore. This is what Rappaport said. Lamar is seeing the same sort of eyebrows raised from the agent community and from players as well because his mother is doing it. Rappaport said, there's a lot of pressure. It's unbelievably difficult. The stakes are incredibly high because if you lock yourself into a bad deal, you could cost yourself tens of millions of dollars. It has happened. Rappaport added that this will be an even tougher negotiation considering rookie deals are set across the league scale. For Jackson and his mother, there's just as much risk as is reward here. And that's what I said. Or not what I said, but that's what was right there in the article that I just mentioned, right? High risk, high reward. That's literally what this is. It's a high risk because if you mess up, you could be messing up your entire contract for the next 5-10 years. And if you make the right deal, you could have a golden contract for the next 5 to 10 years. And that goes into incentives and guaranteed money and stuff like that. As the two work towards the next phase of the quarterback's career, the Ravens still have to make sure they get their franchise star locked in at the best rate possible. And obviously the Ravens, I'm sure it will be flexible here. Every team is. And you got to look at both sides of it. But every team, obviously, if every team wants things for cheap. That's the truth. if you can get something for cheap, teams will take it. And then you can get a really good player for cheap. So if Jackson said, oh, here, is this deal good, and it's a really small deal, Ravens might go ahead and say, oh, yeah, we'll take that. We'll have you locked up here for the next 5 years on this deal. That's what's going to be interesting. So, it's definitely a very high-risk, high-reward type thing. It is something that you're taking that high risk, but you could be getting a big reward. And Baltimore, too, their championship window, like I mentioned, like it was mentioned in the article, it's at its apex. I mean, this is a team that eventually, in the next 1 to 2 years here, you got to set the window of, hey, this is a mandate. We don't win it, things are going to change. And that could be this year. And not even just the championship window, I think more so the playoff success window. If this year they make the playoffs again and they get knocked out in the division round or the wild card round again, you got to have an eye-opener. I mean, that might mean coaching change. That might be roster little changes there. Because obviously, the team's not good enough, not getting there yet. And that could mean coaching change, right? Now, if this year they get to the AFC Championship game and they fall short, you're like, all right, at least we got there. And now you're like, okay, we can build from here. But if they lose again early rounds this year, like the wild card round or the division round, you're talking about like that's upsetting. Like that's another upsetting way to end the season. So it's a big year coming up for the Ravens, and over the next couple weeks, we'll figure out if Lamar Jackson does get a deal done. If they wait, what it is, and if it is a deal, we'll see how big it is. And it could be something ginormous. It could be something really small, and that's why it's a high risk, high reward. It could be something that's an incredibly small amount of money that he could be getting way more, and it could also be something that's an incredibly high amount of money that he might be getting overpaid. So they got to find somewhere in the middle, and obviously I always say this, if a player's going to get a big contract, you got to live up to the deal. And I said that about Patrick Mahomes, and he has lived up to the deal. I had no doubt that he wasn't going to live up to the deal. So many other players out there, you got to live up to the deal. And we'll see if Lamar Jackson does that when he signs the contract. All right, so let's get into Lamar Jackson's stats here, then we're going to move on. So this season, he had 2,775 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a QBR of 73.7, 24 years old. Obviously, quarterback coming out of Louisville. I would say he had a little bit of a down year this year. Definitely, especially from 2019 season. He's played 46 games in his career. And if you want to really talk about contract, injuries have not been an issue. He's played 46 of a possible 48 regular season games in his career. He played 16 in his first season, 15 the last two. So, in terms of, and this season, I believe he was out because of COVID. So, it's not even like it was an injury there. So, injuries have not been a concern with him. So, that's one of the boxes you check off. And I've always said that. Injuries are big. If you have an injury history, I'm not going to sign you to a long-term deal. If you have had a healthy history and you don't miss many games, you're going to have a good amount. You're going to have a good deal. But I definitely would say this season was a little bit of a down year. Now, it was a little bit of a down year because 2019, he had an MVP season. And that included 36 touchdowns. That included an 83 QBR. 7.8 was his average. 3,127 yards. So, 66.1 completion percentage. And his career's got 64 completion percentage. So I said accuracy isn't an issue. But the long ball is. I mean, his longest throw this season was 47 yards, which is much lower than his 83 in 2019 and even lower than his 74 in 2018. His longest throw this season was 47, which is why I say his average throw, longest throw this his career high longest throw ever is 83 yards, which is a lot. But last season it was 47. So that's a little lower. In his career he's had 18 interceptions, 68 touchdowns in his career. His average per throw is 7.5 yards, which is about right. They run about 5-6 yard little routes across the middle. It's about right. And you look at the rushing, and he still surpassed 1,000 rushing yards in 2020. Now, in 2019, he had 1,206 rushing yards. And his longest rush play of his career was 50, which actually came in 2020. I believe that was against the Ravens, I think. Not the Ravens. He's on the Ravens. The Bengals. I think it was against the Bengals, if I remember correctly. I know he had a very long run against the Bengals. He had spin move 3 guys juked one. It was like something insane. That might have been it. But he's had some long runs. Like I said, his running ability isn't in question. But his deep ball ability, I still wonder if he can do it consistently and playoff success. And, this season, a little bit of a down year. But part of that is because last season, he literally put up numbers. In 2019, he put up numbers that broke records. 1,206 rushing yards by a quarterback broke Vic's record. So you're talking about record-breaking numbers. To try to top that again is tough, but a little bit of a down year this year. But like I said, he's coming off of a season where he won the MVP. So, he might have had a good year, but it's not an MVP year. That's how I look at it. So we'll see how it all plays out, but definitely a high-risk, high-reward type situation there in Baltimore and with Lamar Jackson's contract negotiations. All right, so that will do it for the Lamar Jackson contract negotiations. Coming up next, as I mentioned earlier, the Detroit Pistons have won the 2021 NBA Draft Lottery, and they have earned the right to get the number 1 overall pick, which most expect, including myself, will be number 1 overall prospect Cade Cunningham from the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I'll get into the picks. I'll get into all the picks. I'll get into a lot of results coming up next. Alrighty, we welcome you back here up on this Wednesday edition of the BSN podcast, June 23rd. Here today. So NBA Draft Lottery results 2021. Full selection order analysis and more. And yes, you heard that right. The 2021 NBA Draft Lottery has been completed, and the Detroit Pistons have officially earned the number 1 overall draft pick, and they have the right to select the number 1 overall prospect, Cade Cunningham, from Oklahoma State, obviously, who I believe is the best player in the draft. I believe is the best prospect in the draft, and we'll see if the Pistons do decide to go with Cade Cunningham. We'll see if they decide to go, with an Evan Mobley or Davion Mitchell or someone like that, Jalen Suggs. We'll see what they do decide to do, but I would assume most likely the Detroit Pistons will go ahead and select Cade Cunningham. I want to say this first, and this is not a jab or a shot at Detroit, because I'll tell you what, New York has had some really bad teams recently as well, right? The Jets have been bad. Giants have been in a rebuild. Jets seem to have a bright future. Giants seem to be forming a solid team there as well. You go to, some of the, Mets have been bad for all these years. Yankees have been good, but every city goes through it. But in Detroit right now, I think there is some level of hope now in Detroit. Because let me tell you this, Detroit has not been a very good sports city for a couple years now. Right? The Tigers are one of the worst teams in baseball. The Detroit Red Wings are one of the worst teams in hockey. The Detroit Pistons were one of the worst teams in basketball. And the Detroit Lions are not a good football team. Would I say they're one of the worst teams in the league? I don't know if they're that bad, but they're not playoff good, and they're So Detroit, I would like to say this, they've been a very struggling sports city recently. Now, history has not been bad for them. Even the history, too. The Red Wings have a very good history. Pistons, with Isaiah Thomas, they had some moments there. They had some moments, but nothing major. You go to the Tigers, they've had some more recent history, 2012, and, Miguel Cabrera, Triple Crown, and stuff like that. And you go to Lions, they don't have a very good history. Obviously, they got Barry Sanders, some guys like that, but they've never won a Super Bowl. So, Detroit, I feel like now, the Motor City, has now finally got some hope when it comes to their basketball team. And that is getting the number 1 overall pick. And, the Pistons right now are in an interesting situation because they've got some talent on their roster. They've got some guys, they've got some players. They've definitely got some, guys that could be possible players for the future. I got Jeremy Grant, and you got some guys like that. That's really mainly the main guy that you look at on that team. Right now, Jeremy Grant, I guess you can kind of say, he's kind of taken over the face of the franchise role. Obviously, you got rid of Blake Griffin. You got rid of Bruce Brown at the beginning of the season. So, the Pistons right now are obviously in a rebuild mode. They're in a rebuild phase. They're in a phase where, they're trying to, just build for the future. And that all really starts now getting the number 1 overall pick. And this pick is big for the Pistons. I always say this. Whenever you get the number 1 overall pick, it's big. Right? Because it's very pivotal to a rebuild. Even just a top 3 overall pick is pivotal to a rebuild. Top 5 overall pick, top 10 overall pick is pivotal to a rebuild. And that's the case here with the Pistons. This number 1 overall pick, which I would go ahead and say more than likely it will be Cade Cunningham, is going to be a very pivotal pick for this franchise. Because they're going to be able to get a guard, they're going to be able to get a guy that can shoot, they're going to be able to get a guy that's going to be able to play make, able to pass. And if Jeremy Grant does stay in Detroit, you're talking about a very nice combo you're working with there with Jeremy Grant and Cade Cunningham. Now, one of the things I do want to mention, I feel like this Detroit Pistons team is almost like the Minnesota Timberwolves. And let me listen first before you take my words and blow them out of context. Let me explain first. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they got some talent. Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns. They got some talent. Same thing with the Pistons. They're going to have Jeremy Grant, whoever they draft number 1 overall pick. They could have 2 talented players. But it's the rest of the roster, it's the bench, it's the rest of the team that needs the working. And that's why this pick is so big. Because this is going to be the cornerstone of the franchise now. This is going to be the main guy. Right? Cade Cunningham is going to be the guy that you're going to need to be the face of the franchise. You're going to need to build around. He's going to be the guy that's going to be the cornerstone for this franchise for many years to come. That's what Pistons fans got to hope. And that's kind of what they're building there in Minnesota. They've got Anthony Edwards, and they've got also other pieces around him. Karl Anthony Towns, who I would still say is probably the face of the franchise. Then you got D'Angelo Russell. You've got pieces around him. Now, did they have a good season? No. But they've got some talented pieces around him. And that's how I feel like the Pistons got to build. You start with Cunningham, and you already got a piece in Jeremy Grant, who had a very good year this year, was throughout his career, and had an amazing year this year, so we'll see if he could keep it up. But overall, Cade Cunningham, more than likely, will be headed to Detroit. And this is big for the Pistons because they're going to need a guy that can play make. They're going to need a shooter. They're going to need a guy that's going to be the ability to bring some, I feel like just bring some energy. Because I feel like the Pistons, I understand when you're one of the worst teams in the league, and I believe they had the worst record-wise in the Eastern Conference. Or maybe, I don't know, I would have to go back and look. There just didn't seem to be much energy around that Detroit Pistons team and around the fan base. And like I said, I understand. When you're one of the worst teams in the league, there's not going to be much energy. Believe me, I understand. But in terms of bringing energy, bringing like a new face, bringing like a new force to Detroit, that's what you get in Cade Cunningham. Not only do you get his ability on the court, but something about him might just bring that energy. I mean, Oklahoma State, he brought the energy in Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State's been they've been really known for their football, not always their basketball. And he brought the energy to that basketball team. He brought the energy to that organization, to that school, and they got to the March Madness, led by him. And he was a big part of it. He brought the energy there, on the court and off the court. And that's what he'll bring in Detroit, because I feel like the Pistons right now are in much need of like a makeover, a much need of like a new energy source in that building. They need a guy that's going to be pure energy, pure enthusiasm, just go out there, play hard, give it all he's got a lot of skill. That's who you get in Cade Cunningham. And Detroit Pistons, by just getting number 1 overall pick, their future already looks a little less dim. Because you got to be honest, after this season, they don't have many pieces. They don't. But getting Cunningham is the first big piece to solving a very big puzzle. Because a rebuild's a big puzzle to solve. It doesn't take one guy. It takes a lot of pieces. It takes the coaching staff. It takes the front office. It takes all the pieces on the court. It takes all 15 guys on that roster to steer the ship in the right direction. And it starts with this number 1 overall pick, and more than likely starts by drafting Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State. So NBA Draft Lottery results 2021, full selection order analysis, and more. Cade Cunningham might be calling the Motor City home very soon after the Detroit Pistons won the 2021 NBA Draft Lottery. Detroit finished with the NBA's second worst record, 20-52, which gave the Pistons the joint best odds of landing the number 1 overall pick, 14%. The 17-win Houston Rockets had to settle for the number 2 overall pick. Aside from Detroit, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors were the biggest lottery winners after moving into the top 4. Yeah, the Raptors are got a lot of talent on their roster, plus the number 4 overall pick they'll be able to get. And the Cavs get another early pick. The Cavs got a very bright future. They get another early pick, and they got a guy, Jared Allen, who's young, got a bright future ahead of him as well. And you look at the Raptors, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, and Pascal Siakam. You add young talent. I mean, that team looked good. And Houston were the biggest lottery winners moving into the top 4. Here's a look at the draft order after the lottery unfolds. So this is the 2021 NBA draft lottery for the first round. Detroit Pistons, Houston Rockets, Cleveland Cavaliers, Toronto Raptors, Orlando Magic, Oklahoma City Thunder, Golden State Warriors, which was via Minnesota, Orlando Magic, which is via Chicago, Sacramento Kings, New Orleans Pelicans, Charlotte Hornets, San Antonio Spurs, Indiana Pacers, and Golden State Warriors. So those are your lottery picks. Now, outside of the lottery is the next 15 here. Washington Wizards, Oklahoma City Thunder via Boston, Oklahoma City Thunder via Miami. Then you get Thunder, then you get the Grizzlies, then you get Thunder via Miami, then you get number 19 overall is the New York Knicks, then number 20 overall is the Hawks, and then the Knicks again via Dallas, then it's the Lakers, then the Rockets and via Portland, and then Rockets again, which they got from Milwaukee, so 23rd and 24th. Then you get to the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Nets with the 27th overall pick, the Sixers, the Suns, and the Utah Jazz. Now the second round, I guess I could read the second round, is the Bucks, the Knicks. The Bucks got their pick from the Rockets. Knicks got their picks from the Pistons, the Magic. The Pelicans got theirs from the Cleveland. Thunder have more back-to-back picks. Their 36th overall pick is from Minnesota. The Pistons get another pick from Toronto. The Bulls get a pick from New Orleans. Then the Kings, New Orleans gets their pick from Chicago. Then the Spurs, then Pistons again from Charlotte. Then Pelicans from Washington. Then Nets from Indiana. And you go to Celtics, then Raptors have back-to-back picks. Then you get the Hawks, and then the Nets, and then the Sixers, and then the Grizzlies, and then the Pistons, and then the Pelicans, then the Pacers, and Oklahoma City. So, you look at then you have the Hornets back-to-back, then Knicks, then Nets, then Pacers. So you actually look at it, and the Thunder right now, out of this entire draft, have the most draft capital. The Thunder, I would say, out of any NBA team in terms of the draft, have one of the brighter futures, because they got all the picks. They got 38 picks over the next, something like that. They got 36 picks over the next, I forget, but they got a lot of picks, and they gained some more. And you look at the Rockets, even though they get the number 2 overall pick, you get the pick Rockets, and then they get back-to-back picks, 23, 24 overall, and that's big. You get back-to-back picks. And then you look at the Magic, too, and I feel like the Magic also are little winners. You get the 5th overall pick, then you get the 8th overall pick. And that's, big. You get 2 top 10 picks, and you traded away, obviously, Vucevic and Aaron Gordon, which I can kind of say were the 2 main guys in that franchise. And now you can kind of replace those guys with 2 new guys with the 5th and 8th overall pick. Not many people are talking about the Magic, but I feel like in a way, you look at the Magic, and you look at where they are roster-wise. You fired your coach. Then you bring in a new coach, and you kind of bring in 2 new guys to lead the way. I feel like in a way they could be slight winners as well, getting the 5th pick and then the 8th overall pick, 2 lottery picks, and two of those lottery picks were within the top 8, which is big. Then the Thunder obviously were also, Thunder get the 6th overall pick, then Thunder get the 16th and 18th. Thunder have 3 first-round picks. I mean, that is huge. Plus maybe whatever other trades they decide to work out on. Then they have 2 more picks there, and then they get another pick, and then that's it. They have 8 picks. I feel like this draft. They have a ton, and you get 3 first-round picks, right? You have the 6th overall pick, then you go and you have the 16th and 18th overall pick, and those other picks you could use to trade as well. Trade up, trade back, whatever they want to do. But the Pistons, it's big for them. This is a big draft because they get the number 1 overall pick. They're able to get, more than likely get Cade Cunningham. And that's got to be their new guy for that franchise. All right, so Bleacher Report, Jonathan Wasserman listed Cunningham as the number one player on his most recent big board, writing Cunningham is locked into the top spot. The Oklahoma State was the number one recruit in the 2020 class per 24/7 Sports composite rankings. And he lived up to the hype. In his 1 year with the Cowboys, the 6'8 guard averaged 20.1 points per game, 3.5 assists, while shooting 43.8% from the floor and 40% on three-pointers. For the teams that didn't get the number one pick but still landed in the top 5, it isn't the end of the world. There's a lot of good talent. Gonzaga's Jalen Suggs and USC Evan Mobley excelled during their only years of college, while Jonathan Kuminga and Jalen Green solidified their draft stock with the G League Ignite. Suggs enjoyed one of the single best moments during the 2020-2021 NCAA season when his buzzer beater sent the Zags into the national title game, as you all remember that. The NCAA tournament provided the 6'4 guard with a great showcase. He averaged 18.7 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, and 5.7 assists in Gonzaga's final 3 games. The same could be said of Mobley, who put up 13.5 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, and 2 blocks during the Trojans' run to the Elite Eight. Over the course of the season, the 7-footer flashed the range 12 of 40 from beyond the arc. That will make teams hopeful he can emerge as a potent scorer from all 3 levels. It will still probably be a long time before the NBA's professional path through the G League seriously disrupts the traditional pipeline. But the early success of Green and Kuminga will likely lend more credence to the concept. Green averaged 17.9 points per game and shot 46.1% during his time with the Ignite, while Kuminga averaged 15.8 points per game and 7.2 rebounds per game. In general, anticipation about the 2021 NBA draft class was building well before fans and evaluators got substantial samples from players in the collegiate ranks and professional leagues outside of the NBA. While it's far too early to make final judgments, the excitement appears to have been justified. I think this draft's got a lot of talent. Evan Mobley, Kuminga, Green. You look at even some of the other guys, Jalen Suggs, obviously Cunningham. You get Davion Mitchell. There's so many good players in this draft, and a lot of them too, which is something a lot of teams want to look for. This is a team that these are players that are really these are players that have come up big in big situations, and that's a lot of times what franchises look at. Can you be clutch? Can you be consistent? Can you be big in big situations? And for example, Jalen Suggs on Gonzaga, he was clutch. I mean, he hit a buzzer beater, send the team to the national championship game. We all remember that in the March Madness, right? So he's already been winning too. He's already experienced winning. To bring that winning attitude to another team, there's a lot of really good players in this draft and a lot of guys that have good energy, a lot of guys that already bring winning attitudes to franchises that are need it. And definitely a pivotal draft for a lot of teams. And, we'll see how it all plays out. So that's what I got for the draft lottery. Then we'll move on here to the New York Sports Update to finish off the podcast here today. All right, as for the NBA, yesterday the Suns beat the Clippers 104-103. So the Suns up 2-0 in the series. Now the Clippers have been down 2-0 all the time. And they've been able to come back. So we'll see if that's the case this time. But the Suns are up 2-0. Paul George missed 2 clutch free throws late. Suns winning on the alley-oop as they take Game 2, 104-103. Tonight we got the first game of the Bucks-Hawks. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Bucks are 8-point favorites for this game. Give me the Bucks. They're home. They seem to be playing well there. I'm not rooting for the Bucks, by the way. I hope the Hawks beat the Bucks. But I think the Bucks will win that game. Canadians won last night 4-1. So Canadians are up 3-2 in the series. Canadians are 1 win away from the Stanley Cup. Wild I'm saying that. I was completely wrong about that team. They're 1 win away from a Cinderella run and a Stanley Cup opportunity to win the Stanley Cup. As for today, we got the Lightning and the Islanders. Something about the Islanders tells me that, you could look at this one of two ways. And we all do this, by the way. You can look at this one of two ways. You can look at this Islanders game as a game where they're going to come out firing, and they're going to come out and they're going to smoke the Lightning. That's a chance. You could also look at this game as the Islanders are going to get smoked. They're not going to be able to get past that 8-0 loss. They're going to get smoked. And I feel like they will actually go on the better side of things now. At this point, I don't think the Islanders win the series. I'm going to give the Islanders the win tonight. I don't think they take Game 7 in Tampa Bay. Unless if they show me tonight something that they have not shown all series, then I don't think they win the series. But I think home and the Lightning, who lost Game 1, and they got beat hard in Game 1, they came back Game 2 and played really well. I feel like that's going to be the same thing here with the Islanders. They're back home. They got smoked. They know their back's against the wall. I feel like they're going to come out. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to hit hard. They're going to have to take advantage of their opportunities. Who will be in goal tonight? Is it going to be Varlamov or is it going to be Sorokin? Varlamov got pulled after letting up 3 goals, but Sorokin let up 5. Very tough decision by Barry Trotz. I'm going to give the Islanders the win, but make no mistake. But I'm going to give the Islanders the win. But definitely is going to be tough to beat the Tampa in Game 7. And the Islanders got to focus on this game. You cannot be focusing on Game 7. You cannot be focusing on getting the Stanley Cup. You cannot be focusing on last game. Last game didn't even happen. This series is 3-2. You got to win tonight. That's how you got to play it. As for yesterday in the MLB, the Padres won, Brewers won, Mariners won, Giants won, Red Sox won, A's won, Nationals won, Cubs won, Tigers won, Astros won, Pirates won, Blue Jays won, and Reds won. Braves won yesterday 3-0 against the Mets. Simple as that. The Mets just, they lost. It's tough to win a game when you only have 2 hits and you don't score a run. Simple as that. So, Mets moved to 37-31 on the season. And they, 2-game losing streak there. A little bit of skid there for the New York Mets after they took Game 1 of that doubleheader on Monday. Then they lost Game 2 and they lost Game 3 last night. So, they'll try to even up the series tonight with Game 4 of that series. As for the Yankees lost yesterday 6-5. We moved to 38-34 on the season. Loizaga blew it. Loizaga's been very good this season, just did not play well yesterday. Went 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 earns, 2 strikeouts. I guess the old saying, he threw too many strikes. 19 pitches, 13 of them were strikes, so he threw strikes and the Royals hit him. Cole pitched well, though. Cole pitched very good last night. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, 108 pitches, 72 strikes, and his ERA is 2.33 on the season. And it stinks because, Voit had a very good performance. You waste good performances. Judge had a 2-hit game. LeMahieu had a 2-hit game. Voit, your first 3 batters had 2-hit games. Your first 3 batters generated 6 hits. That has not been common this season for the Yankees. And to have that happen and to waste a performance like that, it's got to be tough. Urshela had 2 hits and Higgy had a hit as well. He had a home run. Yankees had 9 hits, but Loizaga blew it late there. They moved to 38-34 on the season. As for today, we got the White Sox and Pirates. I'll give White Sox the win. Phillies, Nationals, I'll give me the Phillies the win. Cardinals, Tigers, I'll give Cardinals the win. Brewers, Diamondbacks, give Brewers the win. Angels, Giants, give Giants the win. That's a pitching matchup right there. Kevin Gausman, who's got a 1.51 ERA this season, and Shohei Ohtani, who we obviously all know is just something else. Give me the Giants. Mariners, Rockies, I'll give Mariners the win. Cheaters, Orioles, I'll give Cheaters the win. Blue Jays, Marlins, give Blue Jays the win. Rays, Red Sox, give Rays the win. A's, Rangers, give A's the win. And Dodgers, Padres, give Dodgers the win. By the way, last night, Wander Franco, the top prospect, obviously was with the Rays. They lost last night 9-5 in 11 innings, but Wander Franco hit a home run. So Wander Franco's first hit as an MLB player was a home run. He also had a double. He finished last night where he went 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored, 2 hits, 3 RBIs and a walk. He had a home run and a double and 3 RBIs. In his first game, that is very good. So very cool to see that. He lived up to the expectations, and he's batting .500 right now. He's only had, obviously, 2 for 4 with a walk, so he's only had 5 at-bats, but he's batting .500. So, I mean, it was cool, though. It was really cool to see that. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he does well. It's always cool to see a guy, you follow him throughout the ranks, and he gets up to the elite MLB, and you hope to see him succeed. I don't know why someone wouldn't want to see him succeed. Anyway, let's get to the Mets. The Mets play today. The Braves got Wright on the mound. He's 0-0 with a 4.15 ERA, and the Mets got Mergel on the mound. No stats available for him. The over-under for this game is 8.5. This game goes on today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on MLB Network. I think MLB Network and probably SNY, I would assume. Mets are 37-31 on the season. Braves are 35-37 on the season. It's 50-50. 50% of people think Atlanta will win. 50% of people will think the Mets will win. I'll join the 50% of people that think Atlanta will win. Give me the Braves the win. As for the Yankees also play today. Yankees come in this game 38-34. Royals come in this game 33-38. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Yes. The Royals got Danny Duffy on the mound. He's 4-3 with a 1.94 ERA. He had a very good season so far. And the Yankees got Michael King on the mound. He's 0-3 with a 4.08 ERA. The over-under for this game is 10. 74% of people say the Yankees will win. Give me the Yankees. I feel confident, Give me the Yankees. I think it's going to be high score. Actually, I don't know. Danny Duffy, I believe he's just coming off the IL, I believe. Anyway, as for fantasy baseball, not going good at all. I'm currently losing 108-33. Today I've got going Will Smith, Matt Olson, Whit Merrifield, Austin Riley, Marcus Semien, J.P. Crawford, Jay Cronenworth, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Manuel Margot, Avisail Garcia, Josh Rojas, and Luke Voit. And I got Joe Musgrove on the mound. Now, an update here. Yesterday I made a change, so I activated Luke Voit and I put Alex Bregman on the IL. So that was the change there. And other than that, Josh Donaldson, injury update on him. Donaldson calf will remain on the bench for Tuesday's game against the Reds. That's not an update. I think he had an at-bat yesterday, something like that. He came off the bench, but I'm thinking about dropping him just because he's been injured and, I don't know. I'm just thinking about dropping him. I don't really think, not that he's been bad for me. He's been good. He's got 133 fantasy points, but I'm just thinking about getting rid of him because he's injured, and I haven't really used him much, even when he's been healthy. It's just one of those odd situations. So, I also got to find another pitcher. I said I'm going to be short. I said I'm going to be a guy who got a short leash. So, we'll see. I was just hoping that Voit would come off the IL on yesterday for fantasy. See, with my fantasy league, you had to wait. So you had to wait for today. So Voit, it was tough because Voit, I had him on the IL still because they didn't activate till today. So, but my opponent had Scherzer as well. So I guess it was like even. But yeah. So it's obviously it's tough. I'm getting smoked in fantasy this week, and I'm gonna hope it can come back. It's not gonna be easy. Not gonna be easy at all. I got some early lineup changes to make because 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time is the Pirates-White Sox game, so that's an early change I'm gonna have to look at. Although Mercedes, another guy too, he's been struggling recently. He had a hot start and he's cooled off a little bit here. So I hope that he's able to start to play better. I'm going to start to, especially as we get into the July months and stuff, and it really gets into the dog days of summer and dog days of baseball, you get into the points where, you got games every day. I'm going to start to make a lot of moves. If you're not hitting, you're going to either sit the bench or, I'll pick up another guy on the waivers because I'm 7-4 right now, third place team. I want to get that first round bye really badly. Not that it doesn't matter, but I would love to get a first round bye and not have to play one of the top seeds after I win. I would love to be one of the top seeds and hope that maybe one of the other top seeds gets knocked off, But right now I'm third place in a league full of, I believe, 10 players. So I'm third place. I'm 7-4 on the season. So still still doing good there. But anyway, that's what I got for the podcast here today. That will do it. And hopefully everybody enjoyed it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.